PIB, great idea. Delay 20 years. You can't move by delaying things.
The fundamental thing that happened was that we took a decision to stop doing the wrong thing and do the right thing.
Now imagine our field in the middle of a pandemic where they still delay because this was supposed to have been done 8 years earlier.
Hello and welcome to the program Energy Day Timelines on Energy Day TV. My name is Monique Agbe. Today on the program we will be talking to the Executive Chairman of MOBIL Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, MOMAN. He also doubles as the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of 11 PLC, formerly known as MOBIL Oil Nigeria PLC. His name is Mr. Tunji Oyebanji.
So, President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday signed the much-awaited Petroleum Industry Bill, that's the PIB, into Act. Now, do you think this would impact on the downstream sector of the oil and gas industry?
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Yes, like we all have heard, the PIB has now been signed into law. This is a law that has very long history. We've all been waiting for close to 20 years. So we've waited for a long time, and we're thankful that it has been signed finally, and we want to seize the opportunity to congratulate the President, the National Assembly, and indeed the Nigerian people for having this bill signed into a law now. Clearly for business people, investors, when you have a clear set of laws and guidelines that will govern an industry, it makes things very clear for investors and gives them a surety of how things are going to proceed. So the likelihood definitely is that it will attract more investors who have a clear picture of how the industry is going to run and how it's going to operate in the near future. So we think that it's going to be very positive. It should lead, therefore, from that investment to creation of more jobs for people. On the downstream side in particular, we expect greater competition among the various players. And once there's competition, that is ultimately to the benefit of the consumer, because the companies involved will now be scrambling for their business, and therefore you will begin to see a lot of marketing efforts and things like that that maybe did not exist in the past. So definitely, I think it's a very positive step. Like every law, it's not perfect. There are areas of the law that people have different opinions about, various stakeholders, but that is what we have for now. So we would like to see people working with the various regulatory agencies that have been created by the law, to ensure that it's implemented smoothly with a level playing field, to make sure that all players are treated equally and fairly, and hopefully it will augur well for the industry and for the country as a whole.
MOMAN was reported to have expressed some dissatisfaction with some aspects of the PIA, especially the monopolistic tendency given to oil refineries in the area of importation of some petroleum products. Now that bill has been assented by the president, do you still maintain that position? Do you think there's still hope?
Well, first and foremost, there's always hope. There's never a situation where there is no. Like I said, the bill has been passed. It's now a law. So unless it is amended sometime in the future, that is what we have to operate under. We were involved to a certain extent in making our opinions felt during the process of putting the law together. So what I would say is that the final document that was finally passed has, I would not say completely eliminated, but may have ameliorated some of the concerns to a certain extent. Like I did say, it's not a perfect law, and sometimes the letter of the law, what is actually more important sometimes is how the law is administered. You can have something in the law that says you should do this way, do it this way, but when you sit down with the regulator, it may be clear that following it exactly how it is written in the law may become cumbersome. It then becomes or behoves on that regulator to look at practical ways to make sure that the thing works properly. So for us, we rather look forward and try and make the law work as we have it today. If it becomes, certain areas become very difficult for us to operate, then of course, like every other law, it may require in future certain amendments. But like I said at the beginning, no law is perfect. You can't have something that is 100% without any issue or without any area of complaint. So we will work with the authority to make sure that in implementing it, some of those gray areas are properly addressed. So we will engage with the authority and with government and other stakeholders to make sure that things work.
One issue that has lingered for ages is that of petroleum subsidy. What is your association's position as it concerns government's continued subsidizing of the product?
Well, we believe it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in the situation we find ourselves. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation. As you know, the government, through various functionaries in the last 1 year, have all said no more subsidy, no more subsidy. But yet, the fact remains that there is an element of subsidy, because today the price at which PMS in particular is being sold is significantly below the landed cost of that product in the country. So it's obviously become a political hotcake, but definitely it's not good for Nigeria. There must be, I think all of us should be able to agree on that, because the situation where we are borrowing at the level we are borrowing, and yet it's almost as if we are borrowing to keep the price of petrol at a less than economic level, which cannot be sustainable. The costs, where there are talks now that this year our subsidy bill may be between 1 and 2 trillion naira. You can imagine what that can do for a country that is starved for revenue, that like we are starved now. So we take revenue from crude oil on the one hand, and we are spending it all on subsidies, or spending a good chunk of it on subsidies. Not only that, we are then having to borrow in addition to make up the shortfalls in our budget. So our position is that it's not sustainable. We understand the sensitivities around it, but as we have pointed out many times, we believe there are ways that government can, ameliorate the impact of those things rather than keeping the subsidy in place. So we hope now that the bill is passed, and the bill clearly states that prices are going to be determined by market forces, that we will have a process by which we can move from where we are today to that market-driven pricing. But again, like everything, it will obviously take some time. There must be a process, and we have to work out the final details, which we will cooperate with government to achieve that goal.
Recently, the government approved the rehabilitation of countries' refineries. How would that affect your association's operations? Do you agree with the plan to privatize them at the completion of the rehabilitation exercise?
Well, as you know, we have gone through many cycles where there have been attempts to rehabilitate those refineries. Up to this point, they have, I would say they haven't been successful because for the last 2 or 3 years, those refineries have hardly produced a drop of petrol or any other product for that matter. Hopefully this time around it will work and the intention of government will be fulfilled. If they do come back on stream, certainly it makes for improved supply into the system. When you add that to the Dangote refinery, it means that our local requirements will be more than sufficiently met. In fact, Nigeria will then become a country that would become a net exporter of petroleum products. So that can only be positive for Nigeria because instead of being a huge consumer of foreign exchange, which we are now, because all the petrol is imported and you have to source for foreign exchange to be able to do it, you will now have a situation where we will now be generating foreign exchange through the sale of refined product, which means we are adding value to Nigeria. So for us, it's something that we do not, I personally would have preferred that they have been privatized long time ago, completely. Government taking its hands off and allow the private sector to manage them. So if what is being done now is towards that process of eventually privatizing them and allowing private sector to manage them, then okay, we are all for it. It's part of the process. But like I said, as an individual, I would rather have sold them at a much less price and allow private sector to take, rather than spending money that we really don't have to repair them first before selling them on or privatizing them. So that's my own take on the subject.
What's your association's position on the issue of deregulation of the downstream sector?
Well, we have always clamored for that. We are private sector driven. We believe that ultimately that allows for competition. It attracts investment into any industry where there's deregulation. It allows for certainty. Investors do not like uncertainty. When you import a product and somebody is the one who will determine the price, when the price moves, you are not able to react. You find that people incur a lot of losses. Those people making those decisions are not always business people. In many instances, they are civil servants. Their considerations are generally more political than economic. So they don't always take decisions that I would say benefit or are favorable to business people, because they don't have to go and report to shareholders at the end of the financial year on their performance and so on and so forth. So they just take arbitrary decisions that have a way of negatively affecting businesses. So for us, deregulation is a welcome development. Now, we need to make a clarification here. Some people have suggested that when we say deregulation, we mean that there should be no regulation of the industry. That is not what we are saying. Our industry is we deal with highly volatile products. Therefore, there must be safety regulations. There must be quality regulations. There must be standards which the authority and government should That should be their concern, an area of, rather than being involved in running businesses as they are doing today. So we talk about the regulation more to do with the pricing and supply of the products. So we are looking for a situation where government will not be the one to wake up one morning and change the price. You know, what tends to happen in reality is that for various reasons, government doesn't want to be adjusting the price regularly. What then happens is that the international price continues to go up, and government will be subsidizing so that they don't have to change the price. At some point, that becomes such a drain on government revenue, and that subsidy becomes unbearable and unsustainable. You now find a situation where the gap between what the current price is and what it should be has become so wide. And by the time government now finally takes the decision, the jump is so significant, and that affects people. But where it is the market that determines the price, you can be going to the office in the morning, the price is X naira, and by evening, when you are coming back, it may be X plus 1 or X minus 2 naira, because we are reacting to competition, we are reacting to... So those changes may not be as significant. The man who sees a 50 kobo increase in the price at the pump is not going to be as volatile as the man who sees 20 naira or 30 naira per liter difference. What you will see is that those changes are more frequent. Secondly, you may find that in Ajegunle, because of the competition and the income level there, the prices in that area may not be at the level you may find them in Ikoyi or whatever. So all those things come to play in a deregulated market. So another thing you begin to find, you know, I talked about competition. I don't know whether there's anybody, some of the men on my right may be old enough. There was a time we had regular and super. The grades of petrol were different. Those who can afford super will go to the pump where they sell super. And those who can not afford more than regular. But today, there's no choice. Deregulation will bring about choice, because there will be people who will say, I want to cater for only those people who have Rolls Royce and big cars and whatever. Sometimes I see people driving a Rolls Royce in Nigeria, and I just laugh, because the petrol they are putting inside those cars is not the quality of petrol that those cars were designed for. So we will always be in support of deregulation. Deregulation for us is not about no regulation or no standards, but it is about freeing up the pricing of the product and freeing up the supply so that different players can be involved in all those value chains. And that interaction and competition will make more choices available for consumers. It will keep prices at their lowest possible level, right? When I use that word guidedly, I didn't say it will keep it at a low level, but the lowest possible level, because nobody will then be able to price himself so high, because there's competition. You can go to the next place and buy at a smaller price. Today, what you find is everybody just hovers around what that government price is, simply because why should I sell lower, since government has mandated it at that price. But when there's full competition, if I'm efficient, if I collaborate with other people, if I achieve economies of scale, maybe I can bring or get my own product cheaper or deliver it cheaper. So that efficiency I can pass on to the customer and thereby attract more people to myself.